So thank you very much for attending the session today. We are very pleased. This is our first of many sessions. We have some good content for you, and we're going to start with Waseem first, I believe. And then, no, actually, we're going to start first with Jorge Sebastiao, and then we go to Waseem, and then it will be followed by me. So I hope you enjoy this session, and reach out to us as usual, and I'll talk to you a bit more at the end of the session. Yeah. So let me pass then to George. I don't.
Yes, I'm here.
So
hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you, George. Wonderful Dubai behind the scenes.
No problem.
So
are we doing this in English or in Espanol?
We decided to do in English. Hola a todos los españoles, todas las personas que hablan español aquí. Perdona, mi español no está así muy bueno, soy portugués, pero la sesión va a ser en inglés. Y después va a haber una traducción para español y puedes ver otra vez este vídeo. Después luego vamos a partilhar la link para vocês verem o vídeo outra vez, ¿sí? Pero Jorge agora vai falar primeiro e depois vai ser o Waseem e o último vai ser eu, Fernando, okay? George, so please go ahead. I think the best is I will share the screen with. Do you have the PDF with you?
Yes, I have everything. Yeah, okay.
I'll share.
No, I have it. No, I have.
Okay, you are co-host, so you can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Buenas tardes, buenas noches. Es un gran placer de estar con ustedes aquí. Estoy en Dubai esta noche. Lo vamos a hablar de blockchain. So, lo vamos a hablar en inglés, pero la traducción será fecha por la versión final que ustedes van a recibir dentro de pocos días, brevemente. So let me share the presentation. Okay. This presentation is part of a series of what we call Nimbus FinTech Academy. And the primary objective of this FinTech Academy is to give you some skills and some knowledge on the work that is being done in blockchain, its implementations, and basic use cases. So we're going to cover piece by piece. So you have to look at it as like an onion, and we're going to peel the layers of the onion one by one and demystify how blockchain is helping FinTech achieve its objectives of generating services and in the profit and generating profits for the customers that actually use these services as well. As part of this education today, we have myself, we have Fernando and Waseem. So I'll start first. These are my longtime colleagues for quite some time, so self-explanatory. So I will be covering in my section the basics about blockchain technologies and some of the issues and how we are actually solving some of these issues in blockchain so that blockchain can actually be used correctly and properly in the services of banking, FinTech, investments, and others. So one has to look at blockchain not as just a simple technological change. It's a major paradigm shift. It's a major revolution in the sense that, as technologically speaking, blockchain is as important as the introduction of the internet itself. Why is that such the case? Because blockchain is radically changing the models in which we are going to be able to cooperate together without the need of a centralized authority. And these are not just my words, but the words of co-founders of Netscape, Facebook, eBay, HP, and many others as well. So why is blockchain so important? Because blockchain allows us to establish trust. Now, if you want to perform business operation on internet, that means transfer value to somebody else, whether that value happens to be a monetary value, like a cryptocurrency, or that value happens to be shares in a company, or for example, real estate ownership, or ownership in a car or a piece of art. Blockchain allows us to establish this trust between the two parties, which will be performing the transaction without any middlemen. So that allows the transactions to be more effective, less costly, and of course, much more transparent. And I'll try to highlight this as I go through. Of course, blockchain, like anything else, is not without his challenges. And some of the challenges that include in blockchain have to do with its implementation. So one can say that the ecosystems today that are required to implement blockchain are still not as mature as they should be. The second thing is that we have different people doing different blockchains. So you can say blockchain interoperability is also extremely important. Third thing I would say is the knowledge and the capability of programming new applications in blockchain. And although blockchain is for establishing trust as a technology, there still are problems in the management of the private keys and the wallets, and people are still losing funds in blockchain environments. So we have to build a lot of extra awareness to try to address these challenges. One of the biggest challenges of blockchain itself is the high consumption of energy. This has to do with the model that is being used for mining and applies primarily to Bitcoin as to a large extent, but to some other extent to some of the other coins like Ethereum and others, although the impact is much less. Of course, there's many ways to address these energy challenges. One of them is to improve the way we do mining. The second one is to, for example, change the consensus mechanisms from the traditional one, which was sometimes called proof of work, to another one called proof of stake. And I'll try to highlight those as we go through the presentation. This will enable blockchains to consume much less power and generate much less heat to be able to perform the same functions. One thing that is important is what are the key elements that or factors that make blockchain unique. It's really about establishing trust, number one. Number two is allowing you to do decentralization. So two individuals, two organizations will be able to perform e-commerce or other transactions without any central authority. With the advent of blockchain 2.0, we introduced something called smart contracts. So smart contracts are pieces of code that get executed inside the blockchain. So they allow us to automate the traditional contracts that we have between one or more parties all at the same time. So it introduces automation. It's protected by fairly strong cryptography, which will make us safe for at least the next 4 or 5 years, or maybe even more, we hope. It allows us to also have only one single version of the truth. So any kind of transactions that get stored on the blockchain will be stored there forever. So we cannot change the changes of values. So any kind of transactions gets appended to the end of the chain. So this enables you to see all the historical transactions since the beginning of the blockchain. Another important factor in blockchain that is important is the capability to actually perform authentication and allowing you to authenticate either individuals or even things like, for example, IoT devices, which are extremely important in smart city implementations. So decentralization is definitely one of the key important features of blockchain. And this decentralization is so important that in today's world, we'll be able to implement models for financial institutions that were simply not available before. One example is we can implement something finance, in which the functions that are normally performed by physical banks, like on deposits or providing insurance services or others, can now be simply performed inside the blockchain without the presence of a physical building or other. So that means it's all done in the code that executes in a distributed way within the blockchain itself. So this enables us to have a much more efficient mechanism and much more less costly and obviously much more scalable, but not always. The second most important element of blockchain is the immutability. So that means anytime a transaction gets stored in the blockchain, whether that happens to be a transfer of title deeds in real estate or transfer of a certain amount of a cryptocurrency, it gets recorded. And all the transactions of the blockchain are linked within itself. So the presence of fake transactions is simply rejected by the blockchain itself. So, and it's visible to everyone who has access to the blockchain. Other elements enables us to have a much more transparency in business operations. So if you're running a bank, if you're running an investment organization, you'll be able to communicate your annual reports or any kind of transactions that have been done between other organizations in a very transparent way. This applies also if you use blockchain for other applications, like for example, electronic voting, where transparency is also an extremely important aspect, especially related to government activities. One of the challenges that remains today with blockchain is obviously, if we want to use blockchain as a normal capability to power business transactions of currencies, we still have some challenges to overcome. Blockchains like Bitcoin can only do 7 transactions per second. So that means it does not have the capacity to perform a much large number of transactions that are required to, if we use it as everyday money. Ethereum much faster than Bitcoin by several factors, 3 times faster. And then we started introducing more powerful blockchains. If we compare these blockchains to, for example, the Visa network, which does on average 24,000 transactions per second, some of the blockchains that we're still using today need to be improved in its capacity. Today, we have already created blockchains that are capable of 1 million transactions per second. So more than enough and exceeding the capacity of the transactions that are today performed on the Visa network. So that means these kind of blockchains will enable us to perform functions like managing devices in a smart city, like traffic lights, parkometers, and others as such. Another important element of blockchain is the presence of what we call smart contracts. Actually, smart contracts are not really that smart, so I don't know why they ended up with such a name. But smart contracts are actually very similar to a technology that's been around for many years when we use databases. We call these stored procedures. So what is really a smart contract? Smart contract is a piece of code that can be written in a language like Solidity, which is used in Ethereum or in JavaScript. And this is a very simple programming language. And it allows us to identify what are the rules that must be executed once certain conditions take place. So for example, when milestones in a contract get achieved, different parties that are part of this contract will get their disbursements of fees automatically being done. So it introduces a higher level of automation. Smart contracts are visible. Smart contracts can be audited. So you understand, so you can give it to a third party to identify if there's flaws in the code or if they're not performing their intended function. Because they're contractual in nature, they can also be compliant with things like laws and regulations of various countries. And this is being done today in places like Dubai with ADGM, the IFC, the MCC. It's being done in places like Malta in Europe. It's being done in places closer to Spain like Liechtenstein, etc. And so this enables us to have compliance with these local regulations as part of the smart contracts. I mentioned before that there's a challenge in which the usage of energy in blockchain. The way we solve this usage of energy problem is by creating better consensus algorithms. Now, so what are consensus algorithms? Consensus algorithms are the algorithms that get executed as part of achieving the completion of a transaction within the blockchain. Bitcoin uses something called proof of work. Ethereum uses proof of work of today, but is going to be moving to proof of stake, which is 1,000 times more efficient. But today we have created over 100 different types of consensus algorithms, each one for a very specific purpose and a much higher degree of performance and capacity. However, it is not really always about the technology. One person we should never forget in any solution is the user. So blockchain, to gain full acceptance in the market, needs to have a very good user experience. So if you have to remember long passwords, if you have to know where the keys of your wallet, etc., this is not always a very good user experience. So a lot of work remains ahead to make the usability of the blockchain much better than it is today. So any advancements in this will make blockchain gain much better market acceptance. Now, blockchain systems are complex ones. I highlighted some elements like consensus mechanisms, user interfaces, and so on. But if you notice, when we create blockchain environments, we have many layers. And a blockchain system includes all these layers cooperating together: the visualization layer, the mining service, smart contracts, wallets, etc. But other layers are important, like the training, the reporting that we build into the systems, the architecture, the management of the crypto keys, just to name a few of a complete ecosystem of elements that are important in a complete blockchain end-to-end system. What are we using blockchains for today? If we look at city within the country of the United Arab Emirates, known as Dubai, which is a leading city in the usage of technology, both in smart city as well as in the government, Dubai is moving to 100% blockchain implemented e-government solutions, and the objective is to do it by the end of this year, even with COVID-19. So the objectives remain there. Apart from e-government and financial institutions, we have many more potential use cases for blockchain technology. Some is in digital currencies, so we'll be able to take the money that we use every day, like the dollar or the euro, and create digital versions of this money. So this will allow us to accelerate payments, and this will allow us to make contactless payments even much more effective than they are today. Smart contracts allow us to write the rules and create much better systems. We can also use blockchain to create a whole new generation of securities. The securities that we use today, like stocks in companies, debt, crowdfunding, or derivative markets, can be automated in blockchain in a much more effective way. But beyond that, blockchain can be used as a traditional database. So it can help us store medical records, it can help us store title deeds of property, can help us store the results of voting, either at parliamentary level or at traditional voting. So we will combine e-voting with blockchain to introduce better decentralization of voting, while at the same time achieving more transparency of the results. Just to name a few examples. So blockchain within the FinTech ecosystem is a combination of various technologies that come together to achieve an end-to-end solution. So what are the other elements other than blockchain that are important in a FinTech solution? Cloud computing is one of them. IoT, which, for example, can help us implement things like, for example, near field communications for contactless payments, augmented reality, which allows us to make 3D worlds or smart environments in which we can perform these transactions. Social media. So whether you use Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, or among others, social media is an important part of the new generation of business models that are part of FinTech, not just the traditional banking systems of the past. So blockchain can then come and transform all these various traditional financial services and make them much more efficient and transparent. So whether it happens to be in commercial or retail banking, investment, market infrastructure, asset management, or the various types of insurance that we use every day, from life insurance to automobile, to property insurance, or even contract insurance, we sometimes call surety or others. So blockchain has many use cases in the financial world. As I remember, the most important part is always the user. We should never forget. So what do we need to do to make blockchain easier to use and more adaptable to the user needs? Create better user interfaces, more flexible infrastructure, more education, better decentralization, and basically correct funding or proper funding for the projects that we implement. This will drive a much better adoption of blockchain. So if you are in the fintech world, you're going to see many changes ahead. Virtual banks, financial institutions that completely run on a decentralized environment and are powered by blockchain smart contracts. This is my short presentation for you about blockchain and the disruption that is introducing in the financial sector markets. So now I invite my colleague Waseem to come and talk about the second part. So Waseem is going to give us a little bit more details about what kind of fintech projects to expect and where this new world is going to take us. So I invite Waseem to come on board. Hi Waseem, are you around? I think you're on mute, so you'll have to unmute.
Hello. Good evening. Thanks, George.
It's all yours.
Okay. Am I going to share from here?
Yes.
Okay.
Waseem, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about FinTech today. I'm just getting to, yes. I assume that everyone can still see me. And we're talking about FinTech today and what FinTech will be able to provide for everyone. Let me see if I can fix that for you. How's that? Is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you, Waseem.
Okay, good, good. Okay, so basically, what are we talking about with FinTech? We're talking about a complete redesign of technology in order to make it easier for our customers to actually utilize the services that we're providing through our technology platform. Okay, so what's the point? How can you do both? How can you be a financial services company and how can you take advantage of technology? What's the way, the method via which we can actually be both a technology company and a financial services company? And financial services companies are very good at certain things. Technology companies are good at other things. So really what we're talking about is a combination of the two. FinTech or financial technology is actually working to be the glue between blockchain and DeFi in many cases. This is not the only way that you can use it. FinTech can be used for a lot of different purposes, and we're going to talk about those. But actually, what we're talking about today is the way that we're taking those blockchain-provided services and technologies, cryptocurrency, smart contracts, all of the great things that George just told you about, and how are we going to plug those in so that we can utilize them to deliver services to clients? So in other words, it's a bank basically, can be on your mobile phone, can be on your laptop, anywhere you want it, and you can utilize it just like you would using an ATM or going into a bank or using an online application that's provided by them. But it gives you actually all of the different layers that you would not normally have, and gives you the control over exactly what transactions you want to do. And as we say, the possibilities are endless. So it's used to describe, of course, financial technology, and it encompasses basically any technology in financial services. From businesses to consumers, FinTech describes any company that provides financial services through software or other technology, and includes anything from mobile payment apps to cryptocurrency, which is basically what we were saying earlier. And you can definitely use anything with an internet connection, mobile devices, any kind of cloud service to perform or connect with financial services and utilize basically a bank wherever you are. You will become the bank walking around with your device or in your office, and you can do all of the transactions that you would normally do as a business to business technology, but this time it would be as a consumer. So the evolution now, where is it taking us? Where has it gotten to? And what is it actually delivering for us? You can, of course, pay your bills and do basic transactions on any device now. But really, we're talking about bringing services to the unbanked. It's a huge market. We have around 2 billion people worldwide who don't have bank accounts, right? So FinTech is providing a nimble option to participate in financial services without the need for an actual building or a place that they have to go to, right? Once you have the KYC done, know your customer, which is basically, who is this person? You get the passport copy, ID copy, whatever it is, and you know exactly who you're dealing with. Once you know that this is their account, this is their, basically their fund, they can utilize those funds to do all kinds of transactions, and those transactions can now be utilized peer-to-peer or directly between customers, no longer utilizing a go-between or a financial institution in between. So the platform then becomes the financial institution. Right? So what are we doing in 2020 with it? I think one of the best examples is crowdfunding. So, you know, Kickstarter, Patreon, GoFundMe, and some of those other ones that illustrate the range of FinTech outside of traditional banking. Crowdfunding platforms allow internet and application users to send or receive money from others on the platform, and allow individuals or businesses to pool funding from a variety of sources, all in the same place. This is very important. Instead of having to go to a traditional bank, for example, to get loans, to get financing, right? It can be done between different participants in the system so that it's much more efficient, less fees, less of a hassle, takes less time, and actually can get you what you need, including willing and able investors who are part of the project. So this is the beauty of it, because everyone can participate, they can vote, they can say, we want the project to go in a certain direction. I see a certain way that we can do this, which would make it more profitable, more efficient. And that is exactly the beauty of having this technology. So who's using it? We talked a lot about business to client, but also business to business. So when we talk about banks, the financing and doing loans and obtaining loans using FinTech, it's for businesses, this is a very important layer of what they're doing, having a huge back office, especially in the financial services industry. And then basically you can use your data, your CRM data like Salesforce to actually connect your businesses together and understand who needs your services and how that financial data can be leveraged to improve the service, right? So business to client, which we already talked about a bit, but really we can enhance things like PayPal, we can enhance Venmo, Apple Pay, a lot of those different things. And you can do budgeting, you can do all kinds of business online utilizing FinTech to actually close the loop instead of having to say, okay, we've done the transaction, now we're going to wait 2 or 3 days for it to actually close, which is actually a terminology that's used in a lot of banking transactions, right? T+2 or T+3, which is the date of the transaction plus 2 days or 3 business days, right? If there's a weekend in the middle, imagine waiting 3 or 4 days for a very important transaction to close. I mean, it could make you really nervous, and it's just completely, it kills the business, and it can be nerve-wracking, right? And just kill the momentum of the deal. When you're waiting 3 or 4 days and everybody's excited for it to happen and it takes so long, then they're kind of going to say, well, why are we waiting so long? I thought this was something new and something advanced. So FinTech allows companies that are providing their services directly to the client to avoid those 2 or 3 day, 2 or 3 day transaction times. So when we go to build the actual FinTech offerings, we have a number of things that we need to think about. Here we call it embrace, plan, and looking at cultural aspects. So embrace a collaborative operating model. Financial services companies traditionally try to control value chains and own the customer interface. The business models and associated capabilities merging from the FinTech-driven model are completely challenging that idea. It's important to develop the relationship skills and strategic blueprint to succeed in increasingly convergent, or at least cooperative commercial ecosystems. What are we saying? Basically, this is what we're saying when we talk about clients working together and having a good plan in the next step to test their operating model as a combined entity, because you're putting finance and technology together. It's not always easy. They have different ways of thinking and different ways of doing things. So when we talk about taking the financial services culture and taking the technology culture, it's a really big deal, especially when we talk about regulation, which is kind of coming up in the next slides. Here we see the value proposition and where the companies, different types of companies, see their strengths. So for the technology companies, they want personal digital contact. They feel that when they give you something that's personalized for you, perhaps using AI or some other technology, that they're doing their job. Whereas in the financial services, they want it to be easy to use, right? Ease of use, this means that everyone can do it. They don't have a lot of questions. They don't feel like, oh, what is this? I don't know what's going on. And it gives them the flexibility that they need to do their transactions. So you can see kind of at all of the different levels where the priorities are a little bit different. In risk and regulation, right, there are different priorities. The technology companies, unless they've been in telecommunications, they generally are not exposed to regulations. And so meeting regulatory expectations while sustaining innovation, personalization, and customer appeal is one part of it. But the challenge is financial services companies are already doing the regulatory piece. They are heavily regulated. And so this is an area in which having the financial services arm or part of the company that's doing that already is a strength, and that can be utilized to your advantage in building the offering. So we have now over 20 FinTech unicorns, right, worth over $1 billion in the world. It's actually an incredible number, but if you think about these companies out there, like Alibaba, right, they're doing all kinds of business through people right there on their mobile phones. And according to TechCrunch, right, everybody knows this firm, TechCrunch analysis, there are at least 40 more coming out within the next year or so. So there is about $100 million in equity funding that came in during 2018 that's now being unlocked. And without going into all of the names, we're definitely looking for things like AI to improve the services that are provided. So this is the place to be now. DeFi is just one example of an entire industry that can be enabled by this new technology. And you will get more information about that coming right up from our next presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Waseem. Thank you so very much. So as Waseem said, I am going now to talk just a little bit about DeFi. That's decentralized finance. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so decentralized finance. I seem to have a problem in moving forward. Okay, so what is decentralized finance? Think about every single financial service that you use today, yeah? And it is pretty much all centralized, but it is a global decentralized alternative to everything that you use, yeah? Financial service, yeah? And the beauty of it is that because of all the strategies around mobile first, then you can access these services with just a phone and an internet connection anywhere in the world. Yeah, as long as you have a stable internet connection, as long as you have a smartphone, then you can access these decentralized services. Yeah. So next slide. I seem to have a problem in actually moving to the next slide. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop my screen and I'm going to restart the slides, okay? Just bear with me. Okay, I think we have to go this way because full screen seems to be creating problems at the moment with PDF. So the current problems that we see today, and some of these have been touched base already, but one of the main ones is that like sending money to everyone that it's close to you, being family, being friends, being the business that you need, it really costs a lot. Yeah, it costs too much these days. And so does everything else. You want, lending, borrowing, yeah, insurance, trading, etc., etc. All the financial transactions that you do today tends to cost a lot of money. And the current players in the market have been trying to get into blockchain, and blockchain provided a lot of these good things about fast transactions, reliable, with good security, but at a fraction of the cost that they do today. Yeah. So there's about 2 billion people, like some of the previous speakers said, that are unbanked. Yeah. And that's a lot if you think well. And they are not just unbanked, they are totally financially excluded from participation in anything. Yeah. But the biggest problem of all is that it is about the accredited investors. Yeah. They are a small number of people. We talk about VCs. Yeah. All of these people that want to risk a little bit with their money, yeah, they have to be accredited investors because early stage startups, for example, are not able to take any investment money. Well, there are certain mechanisms, but it was been quite difficult for anyone to freely, in a democratized way, to actually participate with your money. Remember, it's your money, yeah, to actually do what you want with it, yeah. So what is this creating globally for quite some years is a tremendous, enormous, really, really tremendous, big economic inequality. Yeah. So uh, people that want to do better, they can't because they have to be better to actually do better, if you know what I mean. So you need to have a certain level, you need to be what they call accredited investors to be able then to participate and even do better. And that's really total unfair and it's creating huge inequality from, you know, the very large become larger and everyone else becoming smaller. Yeah. So again, this is one of the things that I like to discuss, and I came back to it. Is because you are really making sure that you can participate the way you want, yeah, and why? It's because of this, yeah. Blockchains made a big difference, yeah. It really is about monetary systems starting to use blockchains. And if you look at the traditional finance, it's all been centralized, you know, it's not very transparent, it's all permissioned, you know, so it's all very controlled and in a silo, yeah? With decentralized finance, it's decentralized, it's permissionless, it's transparent because it's on a public blockchain. So it is easily to be verified by anyone that really understands. And if you don't understand, there are other ways to provide that transparency, yeah? So what does that mean? It means that you are in total control of your own assets. So you are the sole custodian of your own assets, yeah? There is transparency, like I said, you know, being on issuance, being on, you know, lending, borrowing, repayments, collateral, you know. Also, it is about traditional and new tokenized assets. So traditional assets could be a property, for example. George touched based on that, you know, tokenizing properties. It's an example. Yeah. So you will be able to then to participate in those, which at the moment is quite difficult to do certain things. Yeah. Because you need to be in certain ways, which I touch base a bit later on, you know, to be an accredited investors to participate in many things. Yeah. With crowd funding, then it's very different. It introduces a new way. And this is what open source and dev tools actually fomented, is to create new instruments, yeah, for everyone, enable everyone to participate. And this is extremely important. And this is one of the good things about decentralized finance, is bringing all of that to you, yeah. So you really, like I said, you become really your own bank, yeah, and you decide what you want to do, where you want to participate with your money. And you just mainly really start to have a wallet and a smartphone with an internet connection. That's what enables you to do. How? You might think, yeah, well, George touched base on something which it's quite important these days in decentralized finance. Yeah, it's smart contracts. It is one of the great features in blockchain, and it is really a system. And it basically allows two people, yeah, two entities to actually enter into an agreement directly, one with each other, yeah. And you can send to me whatever you want, yeah, or I can send to you whatever I want just by using a function in a smart contract. But this is totally seamless to you. It's just behind the scenes. Yeah, there is a smart contract that is called a function in the smart contract that allows basically to perform a contract between you and someone else. So, you know, these are really programs running on the blockchain, yeah, on blockchains. And they are executed when there are certain conditions that are met. So you, of course, you know, all of this is reflected by what you understand features, yeah, and the features of certain programs, yeah, which in decentralized finance, really what people call Dapps. Yeah, these are basically are apps that have been created by developers. Yeah, that is built really on decentralized technology, which is totally opposite what we have today with centralized entities and companies. Yeah, basically, once the decentralized technology is that, you build also these decentralized apps, and these are really very cool, some of them, and some very efficient applications that allow you to send, receive cryptocurrency. Yeah, but not only that. Yeah, there's many other things that you can build on top of this. Yeah, and very important. Yeah, there's no human intervention in this. Yeah, so the smart contracts and the Dapps, you know, run on it on their own once they are built. You know, there's no need for any human intervention. It's all the functions are really done in a way that they can actually agree what is the next step and the next step, and there's no need for intervention. So there's a lot of automation on that. But it's not just, like I said, of sending money, yeah, or crypto to someone. You know, it could be lending money, yeah, and then you earn some interest on that. You get some return on that, yeah. You could exchange an asset for another, yeah. There's a lot of people being building at the moment, and some very cool ways to exchange one asset for the other, yeah, without actually changing the asset to some sort of money. Could be crypto, could be fiat, and then change again to another asset. And you know, there's a lot of inefficiencies there. So you know, there's, because of all of these decentralized technologies and open source, it creates a lot of innovation, and this is one of the most exciting things. Yeah, and on top of that, you know, people are implementing very advanced automation strategies. Yeah, and this will enable the Dapps and the smart contracts to run on their own. Yeah. So some of the key takeaways just on what I said, yeah, about smart contracts and apps is that, you know, it's not dictated by any business. Yeah, they are simply implemented in code, and the code is transparent and it is on the blockchain. So this is core, so people understand. They are basically available to everyone globally, yeah, as long as you have an internet connection, and they are interoperable. Yeah, so one of the things, well, people talk a lot about DAO. DAO is a term used, and there's a lot of people building more and more. These are decentralized autonomous organizations. So in the end, all of that have been talking about is decentralization. Many will try to achieve especially the ones who want to build a true decentralized technology will aim to achieve a DAO concept at some point. The DAO, what that means really is that because of these smart contracts are public, they are published, they are on the blockchain, and there is this Dapps that everything is automated, then there's no need for human intervention at all. And whatever you are building is basically people vote to decide what are the next actions. Yeah, so it's totally democratized. And these organizations, the decentralized autonomous organizations, are really just run on their own by the participants, yeah, which is you, me, someone else. And depending on your participation, yeah, you have a certain level of voting, yeah, and this voting then allows to achieve whatever that the decentralized autonomous organization, that DAO, was created for. So this is, for me, it is the next step, you know, in decentralized decentralization, yeah, and DeFi is it's a big space, and DAOs will have a big impact on everything that is DeFi. It's quite exciting from my perspective. So P2P loans, I mean, I mentioned lending, borrowing, yeah, it is already possible today. This is just one of the use cases. It is on the Nimbus roadmap, as I'm sure most of you know. But these are really automated loans. Like I said, you know, there's a sort of a contract between two ends, you know, that is in smart contracts. As soon as you initiate it, that then goes through a series of predefined conditions on those contracts, yeah, and those loans then perform automatically without the need of any bank, yeah, in the middle. So you basically decide through a service, you know, to perform this through the app that is facilitated, you know, and you'll be able to follow whatever you want. I mean, you are able to actually lend the money to someone else and then get the return that is actually part of the service being provided. There's no bank, there is no manual intervention, nothing. So it is you that you are in control of what you want to do, yeah. And this is extremely important these days, yeah. And it's one of the things that most people focus in decentralized finance is give the control to the end user, yeah. You are in charge of your own money, yeah. So of course it needs to be met like the conditions they are in those smart contracts, yeah. And that's presented to you through a Dapps, yeah. So P2P Loans is on the Nimbus roadmap, and we're very excited to go to this next to the next stage where we're going to start to create P2P loans. You can view again on the roadmap. So we are getting closer to decentralized finance, and we are moving on our roadmap at the right time. Yeah. So conclusion: DeFi is really your financial freedom. It is really not relying on any bank, insurance company, you name it, any service. It's about you deciding what you want to do with your money and when, yeah? And we are very happy to have you on our community, because that's what we want to build. We want to build this for you, yeah? For all of us, actually, to actually enjoy this freedom, because financial freedom in these days, especially, it's more important than anything else, yeah? So I hope you have enjoyed this session. We're gonna do more of these sessions with different teams, yeah? We want really to give more education, more around the product as well. This will be planned, will be communicated to you in due time. Before we finish this session, I just wanna share something more with you. Great news, it's going to be 1 year soon of the anniversary of Nimbus. Yeah, that's in October. We're gonna send an email out. We are planning, conditions permitting, yeah, that we a cruise starting from Barcelona, 3 days and 3 nights out. This is going to be spectacular. It's going to be amazing. Just wait for us to send out it's going to be sent out soon, the communication to everyone. But we're going to do something special to show the appreciation as well that the community has. And you know, there's going to be then sessions, of course, throughout the cruise, and we will expect everyone participation. So I hope you will join us, yeah? And please reach out, as I said last time and continue to say, reach out to the leaders, reach out to the support, bear with us. You know, we're going through everything that we communicated last time. We just need to ask you to be a bit more patient, but you know, what we wanted really to focus is on the academy and bring you more knowledge to you, yeah? And share really what we think it is the best and the next stages for us all to go on this great journey, yeah, of financial freedom. I always say this is financial freedom for all of us, yeah? So thank you very much. And like I said, reach out to all of us, okay? Just a reminder, there's going to be a translated version of this to Spanish. And then when it's done, the link will be shared to everyone. So thank you, George, thank you, Waseem, and thank you for everyone that prepared this session. And thank you, of course, to all of you for taking time to listen to us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Fernando. Thanks, George.
Thank you, and good evening.
Take care. Good night. Good evening.
Buenas noches.